We begin in Libya, where the head of Libya's UN-backed unity government arrived on Wednesday in Tripoli, following growing international calls for political rivals in the violence-plagued country to cede power. A presidential council formed under the power-sharing deal confirmed on social media that Fayez al-Sarraj, named Prime Minister-designate under a UN-brokered power-sharing deal, and several other members had arrived safe and sound in Tripoli, which was seized by a militia alliance, including Islamists, in mid-2014. The move defies warnings by rival factions that it should not move there. The Presidential Council was formed under a UN-mediated peace deal last year. It is supposed to replace the two rival administrations, one based in Tripoli, the other in the eastern city of Tobruk, that have been battling each other for more than a year. Now, this latest development comes barely a day after UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon pleaded for Libya's unity government to be allowed to start work quickly. He called for anyone obstructing the peace process to be held accountable. The Secretary General, speaking in Tunisia, urged Libya's internationally recognized parliament, based in the country's east, to uphold its responsibilities in implementing a UN-brokered power-sharing deal announced in December. The power-sharing deal aims to end years of political turmoil in the North African state that has been exploited by jihadists and people smugglers. While powers are pressing all sides in the Libyan conflict to accept the UN-brokered deal, amid concerns the Islamic State jihadist group is gaining influence in the country.
Many countries who really wish that Libya now establishes the government of national accord so that we can help them, so that they can establish their country with peace and security.
Let's now get more perspective and the very latest details on this developing story. CCTV's Youssef Gaiji is joining us live from Tunis, and Liling Tang is live for us from the UN headquarters in New York. First to you, Youssef, in Tunis. The UN-backed government had been operating from Tunis. What do we know about how they left and how they arrived in Tripoli?
Well, indeed, they've been operating for weeks from Tunis, but more recently there was first the meeting of the foreign ministers of the neighboring countries of Libya, where they met with Prime Minister Fayez Sarraj and offered their support for them to move and go to Tripoli. Then came the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He met also Fayez Sarraj and also offered support to go to Tripoli, and that's how today we heard that the Prime Minister with 7 members of the Presidential Council left from the port of Sfax in central Tunisia and headed by boat to Tripoli. They are now staying in the naval base there. They are heavily guarded because of security threats particularly from militias and armed groups. What UN Special Representative Martin Kobler said, security actors, and asked for them to help and take the responsibility of protecting this government. Everybody knew that there are high threats, yet the Prime Minister with the Presidential Council decided to go to their own capital, where they are in danger now because of the different armed groups operating from the capital.
Well, Liling, to you in New York, though, the UN has been pushing for the Presidential Council to relocate to Tripoli as soon as possible. Has there been any reaction there to this very latest development?
Yes, this move has largely been a welcomed one. The Special Envoy to Libya, Martin Kobler, he welcomed the arrival of the Presidential Council and said that this marks an important step in Libya's democratic process and path to peace. And this was from an official statement issued by the UN support mission in Libya, so-called UNSMIL. Now, Martin Kobler also praised the courage, determination and leadership of the Presidential Council and said that the international community stands ready to lend support and assistance where needed. He also called on the people of Libya to throw their support, to lend their support to this Presidential Council. And he said, as well as security forces, and we just heard Youssef talking about that, this is an important area, asking the security forces on the ground to protect, to ensure the safety of these council members whom we know had arrived in Tripoli in defiance of opposition, of warnings from opposition groups that do not want them to be there. Now, among the UN press corps here, there was a briefing just about an hour ago, and there were concerns that this latest move by the Presidential Council going into Libya, despite those warnings from militia and rival opposition groups, that this would further incense the contentious climate there and anger these opposition groups. But as far as the UN is concerned, the UN said this was a decision by the Council and not by the UN.
Youssef, the move, though, comes in spite of warnings from the Tripoli-based rival government. Are there concerns, though, that their relocation could stir up chaos there again in Libya?
Absolutely. Now the future is very uncertain in Libya, and everybody, the whole world is waiting and watching what's going to happen in the next few hours, in the next few days in the country. This government comes after weeks and weeks of talks and negotiations between two different governments, one that is based in Tripoli, and that is the General National Congress, and another the parliament, which is based in the east, in the west, in Tobruk, and that's the high operating representatives of the people. And these two councils did not agree on the actual government that will come into place. So this is the closest they were able to get to a solution. Now this government is trying to make a push into Tripoli, knowing that not only the different political sides of Libya are divided, but also there are several militias and armed groups acting on the ground, including ISIL that is taking base in Sirte, but also in Tripoli there are thousands of armed people there, and they need to take control of the city. So for sure they will face a lot of challenges in making the city safe for them to work from there, but also safe for the people.
Well, Liling, as has been mentioned there by Youssef, though, the region, the international community is watching closely the developments there in Libya and what will happen now. But the UN-backed officials are now in Tripoli. Do we know what the UN plans are in moving forward? Can they install a new government amid the opposition from the rival factions? What do we know?
Well, as far as the international community is concerned, and especially Western nations, they believe that this presidential council is the real answer to resolving the Libyan conflict and also to address the growing presence of ISIL there on the ground in Libya. But as far as the UN is concerned, it's made clear that while it supports this presidential council, this is a Libyan government and not a UN government. So the UN really is not in a position to install a government should this fail. It's really up to the Libyan people. So as you said, the UN and the international community by extension is watching very closely to see what happens now, to see if there's going to be an orderly handover of power. And also really the UN's position is that the fate of Libya now hangs on the balance. It lies in the hands of this council, but also really in the hands of the Libyan people themselves.
Right, Liling Tang for us there, the UN headquarters in New York, and Youssef Gaiji in Tunis. To you both, thank you.